Intro to AAC Implementation, Basic Talker Training for RD in Coventry, Connecticut. Before we get started, I would like to just preface this presentation with the notion that I did not actually create the original presentation. I modified it and adapted this presentation from the EConn presentation, another student from 1 year ago. So I'm also a student in learning about some of these procedures and steps and guidelines, suggested guidelines. So as we go through, keep that in mind, and hopefully we can all learn something really wonderful from this. So I'll take your questions as we go, and let's begin. Okay, so we want to start with Rosa. We want to start with a vocabulary wish list. So as you can see, it's a list of words, phrases that are missing from Rosa's talker. So Jennifer, myself, I will be the programmer and only person to edit, change buttons, settings, etc. in Rosa's talker with input from the team. How I can be reached, the school team will write on the whiteboard in Lisa and Daska's room, unless anyone else has any other ideas. And the family, we can ask mom to text and email the information. Mom and I have already had a conversation about that. Okay. So we are going to call it Rosa's Talker. Even though it's an iPad right now, it looks like an iPad, we want to start thinking long term and assume the technology will change. So for all practical purposes, we're going to call it a talker. Having a consistent name for the tool, regardless of whether the tool changes, clarifies that it's the purpose of the talker that's important, not the product. For example, PEX, iPad, Proloquo, To Go, Touch Chat, etc. Okay. Calling it an iPad or tablet sends the wrong message about what it's used for. Untrained adults and peers will assume it's for play, and we don't want that. The talker should be a bridge between two people trying to communicate. Okay, so Rosa's talker is a backup. Rosa is in the learning phase right now, so we should feel responsible for teaching Rosa how to become fluent in this second language of using a talker. Once Rosa is fluent in using the talker, it will serve as a backup for when other ways of communicating are not enough. Becoming fluent in using the talker to repair communication breakdowns increases Rosa's independence. The talker replaces the need for human interpreters. At least that's what we're thinking. It will never replace talking, however. We are going to talk about teaching in two situations. We have incidental teaching, teachable moments. The second one we have is the programmed, structured activity, those types of teaching moments. So we'll start with incidental. Incidental provides meaningful context, the greeting during the arrival, for example. It promotes generalization, unpredictable number of opportunities. But the only thing is, the attention can be compromised. So the second one, the type of teaching situation, is the programmed or the structured activities. Just like the PEX protocol, speech session, mealtime, etc., those are all structured activity times. These provide a set number of opportunities, planned ahead of time to tie into the curriculum and the IEP. Optimal focus and attention, and there are less distractions. So that's the plus on the programmed situations that we teach in. Okay. Next, the best teaching method is modeling. We have research-based intervention referred to as aided language input, ALI, aided language stimulation, ALS, and partner augmented input, PAI. The literature can be found on this website that I have on the slide if you'd like more information on that. The ALS, ALI, PAI is all the same thing, basically modeling. Modeling is showing. We show Rosa how to use the talker so Rosa can imitate. We'll get into that more. Okay. So what we need to remember is that we, as the trained staff, we are going to use the talker more than Rosa, okay, at first. The only way that Rosa can imitate appropriate use of the talker is to see someone else using it appropriately. Think about it. If you were learning a second language, you would expect your teacher to speak it more than you do, right? We've all taken, most of us have taken a second language. Model without expecting imitation. That's the way we want to start with her. Forcing imitation is prompting, even if it's just a pause and a look. So we really want to watch that. Modeling. Modeling 1. Model what Rosa tries to say. So for example, when Rosa hands you an object, you honor that by using it. Then you model on her talker, your turn, and don't force her to push it. Another example, you teach Rosa that you will still honor any form of communication that you can honestly understand while also teaching the new backup. So we want to pay attention to that as well. This modeling should occur as often as Rosa is trying to say something that you understand. Do not try to read Rosa's mind if you're unsure, as this can create frustration. Instead, when in doubt, model what you say about the situation. Okay, we'll go into that a little bit more as we go. Modeling 2. Model what you say. So highlight keywords from what you naturally say to Rosa. Like when you sign one word from your sentence. Example, you would say, break time is all done, and then sign the all done sign. I know we don't use sign with Rosa really, so some of this doesn't apply, but again, this is just sort of the practice of learning about the AAC device. So start by highlighting fun, positive words that Rosa might enjoy imitating. So example, you are about to transition out of a break and you say, break time is all done. Let's go, go, go. You can push the go button to, number 1, fill in the blank in your verbal sentence, push it simultaneously as you say it verbally, and push it right after you finish talking. Repetition is good to get Rosa's attention. Push repeatedly as appropriate. Don't get too carried away, but you can certainly press the icon more than once. Modeling 3. Model what other people are saying. Example, the student next to Rosa is talking about their new shoes, and you model shoes and or blue shoes. This is a great way to get peers interested in Rosa's talker as something positive that they understand the purpose of. One thing to remember, this is important, don't talk about the talker. So let's say you're looking around you're getting acquainted with the talker, you're trying to find something on the talker, and you can't find it right away. It's happened to me, and it will happen to all of us as we get to know the talker. So be sure not to narrate as you search for the word. This takes practice modeling. So again, so just be quiet while you're flipping through to look for something, okay? So you can repeat your question as if the talker isn't there. Example, you just saw Rosa yawn, so you ask, Rosa, how do you feel? And start modeling by opening the correct folder to get to feelings. Then you repeat your question, Rosa, how do you feel? And you model, okay? What do we model? That's the question I'm sure most of you are having at this point. So when Rosa walks over to you and gestures to something she can't do, be sure to honor it. Honor by helping her a little. Then model on her talker, help me please. Might need to model, I need help. With Rosa, she's pretty good with asking for help. Certainly in my sessions, and I'm pretty sure she's doing that in just about in all settings, so that particular example may not be a good one for her. But when Rosa points to an object and says please, honor validate by saying, oh, you want my cheese. Model that message on the talker. I want plus things plus in food, dairy lunch, cheese. You are free to say you can't have my cheese, but at least you modeled it for her. When Rosa rattles chocolate milk cup, honor and validate that by saying, you want more chocolate milk? Then model, I want, plus things, foods, drinks, chocolate milk. You find it on the talker, and then you are free to say, go get it yourself, but at least you modeled it. Important to remember. Okay. If Rosa is using the talker to talk during inappropriate time, so example, speech therapy, Rosa is pushing random buttons. I haven't seen her do that yet, but I've been a little strategic in the way that I'm using it with her. So I keep it a little bit off to the side as we're doing work, and as I'm introducing it to her, I bring it over. Now, she has reached over, it's not that far away from her, she has reached over and pushed a button herself, so it's been nice to see. Anyway, should this happen, she's using the talker to talk during inappropriate time. So treat it like verbal behavior. What would you do in that case? If a peer was talking off topic, what would you do to intervene, redirect? How do we handle that as a team? Consider this though, you would never ever cover the peer's mouth, so you would never take the talker away. Something to think about. Okay, talking to gain attention, go off task behavior plan. Visual cue of shh. Visual cue to pay attention to task, eyes on speaker, on picture. Physically block by modeling stop. Okay, just something to think about there. Should that happen? How about playing with the talker as an iPad? She's not really such a scenario really isn't going to happen because Rosa's trial device is only in talker mode at this point in time. So she does not have access to the features of a typical iPad in this way. So this really is probably a non-issue. If it were an issue at some point, we would just say it's time for work. Okay, sharing during modeling. Pass around strategy. When opportunities are available, peers and adults in a morning meeting setting pass the device around and each get to use the device briefly so that the AAC user sees it as a socially acceptable manner. Peers also buy into the purpose of the talker in this way. So another strategy, my turn, your turn strategy. Say my turn before modeling and your turn when done modeling. Okay. Peer modeling. Encourage peers, siblings to take a turn using Rosa's talker. Something fun or social like a greeting, a high five. Set ground rules for peers that it's not to play with. It's something to show someone. It's something to say, I should say. Say something to someone. Differentiate it from similar looking toys. Adults model for the peer just like you model for Rosa. You might be tempted to ask Rosa to show a peer or sibling how to use the talker, but remember, that is prompting, verbal prompting, and you never ever want to verbally prompt Rosa to use her talker. We will discuss prompting later. Okay, so let's see what we understand so far at this point. Test question 1. Who should be allowed to use the talker to model? Would it be trained adults, peers supervised by trained adults, untrained adults guided by trained adults, or all of the above? Give you a few minutes to think about that. So yes, if you guessed D, it is D, all of the above, okay? Test question 2. If the student doesn't imitate how I use their talker, I should A, prompt them to imitate, B, repeat the model, C, assume they are incapable of imitation, or D, wait silently until they imitate. Now, I'll be honest with you, I actually had some difficulty with this because when I first looked at it, I knew some that didn't make sense, but I was leaning toward D, to be honest. Wait silently until they imitate. That, however, is incorrect. What you would do in this case, does anybody have any thoughts on this one? I'll give you a couple minutes to think about it. But it's definitely not D. Okay, so if you guessed B, repeat the model, you are correct. Now, there's another piece to this. You either repeat the model or you simply move on. And that's not really in here, but it's very important if they don't imitate how any of us, the trained speaker, are using their talker, they should, the trained staff should simply repeat the model and just move on. That's the whole point of modeling, is no pressure. Okay. Test question 3. When you first start, the student should be expected to use the talker, A, more than the trained adults, B, less than the trained adults, C, the same as trained adults. And if you're following all this, you're probably like I was, like it doesn't really make any sense. Or D, all of the above. It can't really be all of the above. So what would the answer be for this question? Okay, so if you guessed B, less than the trained adults, you are correct. Question 4. A good example, or an example of good modeling rather, is what? Is it A, pointing to the button the student should press, B, telling the student to use your talker, C, giving extended wait time for the student to respond, or answering your own question using the talker? I also, be honest with you, I also had a bit of trouble with this initially. I had to think about it. This was not a natural response for me. So I'll give you another minute and we'll go over this. So what do you think your answer is to question 4? A good example of modeling is... Okay, so the correct answer is actually D. A good example of modeling is answering your own question using the talker. So, and I have had some practice with this already with Rosa during our speech therapy sessions. So we will continue on, and I'll talk to you more about my experience with that in a moment, maybe towards the end. Okay, question number 5. Modeling should occur A, in speech therapy, B, during structured activities, C, during unstructured everyday interactions, or D, all of the above. So what do you think on that one? Okay, if you guessed D, all of the above, you are correct. All right. Test question number 6. An adult can model the use of the talker to say A, what the student just said non-verbally, B, what they are saying to the student, C, to repeat what someone else is saying, or D, all of the above. So I'll give you another minute. Okay, and the correct answer is D, all of the above. Lots of opportunities for modeling. Okay, we're going to keep going. I hope you're enjoying the presentation so far. Test question number 7. Which should the adults expect the student to do? A, imitate every model. B, use the talker instead of their verbal speech. C, take responsibility for carrying the talker from place to place. Or D, update the vocabulary. Any thoughts on this one? The answer might surprise you. The answer is actually C. Take responsibility for carrying the talker from place to place. May not seem like a lot, but that's really their piece. Okay. So here are some initial thoughts about modeling. Okay, you don't have to model a full sentence, just keywords: up, coat, go. And actually, I'll be honest with you, that part of it was a huge relief for me, because it does help speed it along a little bit, especially when you're new to learning this, like I am and like you all will be, to just find a word that goes with it. So that's a good thing. Secondly, another thought about modeling. Adults need a chance to get familiar with where words are. Yes, we do. I can speak to that firsthand. So what I was going to share with you about Rosa was, as I'm getting to know the talker, sometimes I have had a situation where Rosa is just so conditioned to, come on, let's just move, let's go, which is good. I mean, that's her training, and that's, she gets a lot of trials in and structured trials. The only thing is, there is a learning curve with the staff getting training themselves and getting better at using the talker to help her with it. So it's not so much of a quick, rapid drill succession type of thing. So I sort of saw that firsthand with Rosa last Friday during our session. I mean, I can't be sure, but it did seem like she exhibited a little bit of that response to me learning the talker, a little bit of impatience on her part. And she did get off task for a bit, but as I said, I can't be sure that that's what it was, but it seemed like that might have been a factor. So we'll just all have to stick with it, including Rosa and us, and we'll eventually get there. We want her to feel more comfortable with it. That's the whole goal. And leads into the next statement. It's going to be hard and it's going to take time. So we want to think about modeling as reducing prompting, getting rid of prompting, getting rid of like saying those things like, use your talker, Rosa, or, putting some pressure and forcing her on something. So the modeling is really about pulling that back and just giving her examples to follow. Another thought about modeling. It might limit adults communicating with her because we won't be verbally talking to her as much. Again, part of the learning curve. It'll feel that way at first, and this ties into my last part here, which is remember that this will not feel natural at first, but the key is at first. As we all get more acclimated in using this, that should disappear. Okay. So let's begin about prompting. Okay. So keep in mind that no one prompted you to talk as a baby, right? They just talked to you for about a year. They modeled something you could imitate. Okay? Modeling places 0 demands on Rosa, so it shouldn't upset her at all. That's one of the benefits to this. Prompting forces Rosa to comply, so Rosa is likely to get upset. Or, just backtracking for a moment, as I said, with the modeling and the learning curve with the staff training themselves to use the talker can also get her, I wouldn't say upset really, but a little bit off task. So those are all things that we have to be aware of as a team. Since you will likely prompt anyway, that is the reality, a lot of us are conditioned in that way, here's what you need to know in order to do it correctly. Okay, if you can't model, or if you find you're prompting, it's a process. We all are going to try to pull that back a little bit as much as possible, but if you find yourself in a prompt mode, here's what you need to know. Okay, so there is a silent prompting hierarchy. Okay, so number 1, wait and expect communication, often forgotten in the moment. So wait and expect communication. Again, a silent piece. If nothing happens, try to use a gestural cue. Gesture in general towards the device or the talker, such as point to it or push it closer to Rosa. If nothing happens still, and this may occur especially at first, use a more specific visual cue. Point to the appropriate button, even a moving point to get their attention better, like you're going to tap it. Okay. But remember, no verbal prompts should be used. Although they are least intrusive, they are the hardest to fade. So we want to watch out for getting Rosa to be prompt dependent on a verbal prompt. And just a little piece on this, in my own experience, when I'm working on a goal objective during my speech therapy with her, I can get Rosa to this point. So for example, the other day, or one of her objectives was increasing sentence length. And so what I would do, and I told Mom, I shared this with Mom at the last parent conference, we started off with a dry erase board, and we had the marker, and I actually wrote out the sentence and pointed to each part of it and said it at the same time. And then as we went on, I actually faded that back a little bit. Rosa was actually okay with that. Instead of having the words written out, like say a 5-word sentence, we just had lines that represented the words. So I got into this silent prompt hierarchy. I would point to the line, and she got to that point. Then we got to the point where we weren't even using the dry erase board at all. But then I sort of did this on my fingers, with the words, and that seemed to help. But then I finally got to the point where I wasn't doing any of that at all. So she is capable. Rosa is definitely capable of us doing the silent prompting. She doesn't always need that verbal prompt. We don't want that to be our ultimate goal with her. Okay, silent prompting hierarchy continued. These physical prompts should only be used if absolutely necessary and backed off of right away or faded to check if Rosa can do without. So, if more cueing is needed, then use a partial physical prompt. By moving the user's arm toward the target, push their elbow so that their hand hovers over. If they just hover over the button, tap the back of their hand. Okay, we've all sort of seen this. I'm familiar with this, even in low-tech interventions. I've seen this when they had the communication board without the technology. So lastly, we want to use a full physical prompt, hand over hand, to push their finger down and activate the button. We never ever want to jump to this. We are not teaching in an errorless manner here. Error correction is a skill that needs to be learned as well. So again, no verbal prompts should be used. Although they are least intrusive, they are the hardest to fade as we go forward. Okay, faded prompts. Fading prompts means you should always try to give less help than the time before and wait and see if Rosa can do more on their own. If you feel that Rosa is requiring a high level of prompting support, increase the number of opportunities Rosa has throughout the day to practice using the talker. Also, increase modeling so that input exceeds output. When to model versus prompt. This is important. Prompt when you are not in the conversation. Third-party prompting, details on the next slide. Modeling puts zero demands on Rosa. Prompting places demands on Rosa. When Rosa is getting upset, switch to modeling. If you think Rosa is calming down and can follow a prompt, try prompting again. But if Rosa responds negatively, be sure you switch to modeling. When in doubt, model, model, model. Third-party prompting. Similar to in the PECS protocol. Everyone is familiar with the PECS protocol? So the PECS is been around for years, and it's basically an exchange of a picture icon has to be presented in order for an object or a want or desire to be reciprocated. So similar to that protocol, the communication partner is not the helper prompter. The communication partner is the one in the conversation with Rosa. You are a silent prompter following the prompting hierarchy and switching to modeling if Rosa resists that prompting. If you model, the listener responds as if Rosa did it and moves on. So remember that. We talked about that before. So it's really a very low-key thing. It's not making a big deal out of anything. So when you model, the listener responds as if Rosa did it and just move on. Okay. It's a lot less stressful for you as the teacher, as the trained staff. Okay, if you are the one asking Rosa the question, someone else should be silently prompting Rosa to use the talker to answer you. This way, all you have to do is repeat your question and wait as if the talker isn't even there. When the message is communicated, you just respond as if Rosa said it, verbally with praise and encouragement. Don't focus on the fact that Rosa used the talker. Rather, focus on the fact that you understood it. avoid, 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 avoid. Avoid prompt dependency. So we have the 3 different levels here. Least to most hierarchy of prompting. General gesture, specific point, partial physical, and full physical. So fading. Fade the last level of prompting used and increase wait time. Wait time is very important. I know everyone, no matter how trained or untrained you are, has had to be more aware of the wait time. It doesn't matter how seasoned we are, we all can benefit from waiting, increasing our wait time. Always use silent prompting. Verbal prompts are the hardest to fade. Rosa may have trouble processing what she hears and sees when it's presented at the same time. So I think we all sort of have a sense about that with Rosa, but it's never a bad thing to just remember that as we go forward. Okay, let's talk about prompting and the test questions and sort of recap for this new part of the presentation. All right, number 1, what is the hardest prompt to fade? So we have hand over hand, partial physical, verbal, and visual. Anyone remember this? Hopefully we drove the point home. Give you a minute. Okay, if you said C, verbal, you are correct. Verbal prompting is the hardest to fade. Remember that. Okay, test question prompting number 2. When prompting is appropriate, I should start by gesturing towards the talker, then silently pointing to the specific button. B, gesturing toward the talker, then telling the student to push a specific button. C, telling the student to use their talker, then gesturing toward the talker. Or D, telling the student to use their talker, then pointing to the specific button. I also had a little bit of hesitation when I was going through this my own on the first time. So I'll give you a minute and see what you think about test question number 2. Okay, any thoughts on this one? Hopefully this point is being driven home to you as we talk about prompting. So the correct answer is A, gesturing toward the talker, then silently pointing to the specific button. So remember, any option that we have that can be done silently, and if you look closely of these 4 options, letter A is the only one that really does that. Gesturing and silently pointing. Okay, so initial thoughts about prompting. So it's important to remember that we're talking about prompting her to use the talker, not prompting her to do a task, like put the wet naps, blah, 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 right? We don't think she will need prompting to use her talker like she does to do her work. She's proud of her talker. Okay. The do's and the don'ts. So we don't use the talker as academic material. We do, however, use print materials or separate electronic devices. Always keep work separate from communication. The talker is to say something about the work, something to remember. Remember, don't say, "Tell me on your talker," after they've already successfully communicated using a different mode. And I think with Rosa, we have that a lot, to be honest. She's the type of student who, she is understandable a good portion of the time. I think we've all seen it. Any of us who know Rosa, usually a more familiar listener would say that. So give her credit, don't make her do both. If she said it and we were able to use the context and we got it, then good. Do first reinforce, give Rosa what she asked for, then model how Rosa could have said it on the talker. Remembering that modeling is important, and it just really expands her learning opportunities. Don't pretend that you don't understand. This may seem like common sense, but I think most of us at one point or the other have found ourselves in this position before. So just remember to just let it go. If she used a communication modality that worked, then good. Okay, so schedule interactions with unfamiliar listeners. So misunderstandings are genuine. Now that is a good idea, and I think that happens a fair amount in her schedule anyway. Okay. Another don't. Don't create new activities for the use of the talker. There will be plenty, I can guarantee you, there will be plenty throughout her day. Again, that learning curve. When I'm in the speech therapy session at this point in time, I've worked with her a few times on it now, there are plenty of opportunities. Again, it's a little bit sort of uncomfortable, unnatural at this point for me, so I do anticipate that that's going to be the case for you. It's all a process, it's all good. We'll work at the pace we need to with her on this. Okay. So do embed talker use into a routine activity that Rosa already understands the expectations for and can complete independently, which keeps demands low and likelihood of talker success high. Okay, stop at this point, and please take your post-test. Please refer to the next set of slides if the following issues arise. Rosa doesn't seem motivated to communicate, you're not sure what vocabulary to add, or you need ideas for structured activities. Okay, so I'll give you a few minutes to complete that. So I'm going to skip through these slides on motivation. We can go back to them if we have questions. Okay, let's go to choosing vocabulary. So carrier phrases foster sentence building skills. I want, I need, I don't want. Core words can be used more frequently. I want, and then I want that. Fringe words can be represented by symbols that the user will recognize. So we have TV, cookie, cat. Single words are more versatile for sentence building. Eat equals I want eat. Eat more, all done eat, go eat, no eat, mom eat. Single words are more versatile for modeling. Eat, it's time to eat. Let's eat, show me how you eat your carrots. Don't eat that, should I eat this? Wow, look at her eat. Okay. Let's see. All right, sentences are quicker in real time for urgent messages. So, I need to go to the bathroom, please. I need a hug. I need a break. Okay. Limiting vocabulary. Don't limit what words are on the talker just because Rosa may request them over and over again or obsess. Treat it like any other behavior that you need to extinguish. So again, this might be a point where we speak as a team. How do we handle that? What are the things that we do? Verbally redirect like any verbal student who is repeatedly saying the word over and over again. Always intervene like you would with a verbal student. You wouldn't tape their mouth shut. Okay, and I know Rosa is not verbal, so this particular wording may not really be appropriate in her case, but let's just suffice it to say that a limited verbal student. I guess we could say that about Rosa. Okay. So vocabulary for different functions of communication. So we have requesting, I want that, I need it, help, more, please. We have protesting, no, all done, stop, no way. Greeting, hi, bye, see you later. Labeling, eat, big yellow bus, sick, Barack Obama, first. Answering questions, yes, no, I don't know, 25. Directing others, go, stop your turn, wait, gaining attention, mom, hey you, look. Commenting, I see it, yum, oh yeah, sorry, I love you, okay. Asking questions, what is that, when, how many. Over time, modeling should include this variety of functions. To start, target functions that are motivating, reinforcing for Rosa. Makes sense, right? Okay, structured activity ideas. Communication temptations. Something unexpected. The elephant in the room. Sabotage. Okay? Examples of this would be during turn taking, skip Rosa's turn so she can say, my turn. Okay. Giving smaller portions of things. So Rosa will have more chances to request more, okay, at snack time or whatever. Freeze as you're walking in, so Rosa can tell you to go, okay. Put something on your head and ask, is this a hat? So Rosa can say no. I think we all do this for the most part. Okay. Group participation. So one-word messages that create strong effects, social reward, attention. Morning meeting. Take attendance by asking, is Rosa here? Everyone waits for Rosa to answer, yes, and then everyone cheers. Art class. At the beginning of class, teacher quiets everyone